Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Sarco. This week we got a little quiz in the beginning. I'm going to throw some words out and think of the first thing that pops into your mind. Target Master, Score Master, Match Master, Sport Master, and Junior Special. If you answered Remington, you're probably on Social Security. That's right, it's the Remington 500 series of bolt-action rifles. Through the course of their production, they produced about 25 different variations, from single shot to match guns. So unfortunately, I don't have all the variations here, but we do have a few. But before we get into the variations of it, let's take a look at a few elements of it. All the 500 series bolt-action guns were built on the same receiver, which was a tubular, rectangular piece of drawn steel. So this was the basis for it. They all shared a common bolt. The bolt was color case hardened, dual extractors, and cocking indicator. A few things the guns also shared was dual locking lugs, a right-hand side-mounted safety, a groove trigger, and a full-size walnut stock. Now, early receivers were not grooved for a scope, but you can see this is a later receiver and it's grooved for a scope. And when you think of early scope, don't think of the things you have today. Think of something like this. So the first one we have up is the 511. In a 511, again, full walnut stock. This one has a scope mounted on it with a groove receiver, some more modern scope. 6-shot magazine. Gun was produced from 1939 till 1963, and they produced about 381,000 of them. 5.5 pounds, and it shot short, long, and long rifle. Now think about being a kid in the 60s, you probably got 25, 50 cents an hour to work. If you were lucky enough to get the gun, you collected soda bottles, and for about 70 cents you could pick up a box of Winchester Super X long range 22 shorts, which, as the box tells me, is loaded with double action smokeless powder. I have no idea what that means. And for about 80 cents, you could pick up a box of 50 Peters Target. Now think about what your Target ammo costs today, with some of it pushing $20 for 50 rounds. In addition to single shots, Remington also produced a tubular magazine, the 512, which was produced from 1940 till about 1962. You could hold 22 shorts, 17 longs, or 15 long rifles. Now, when we look at this gun, and I've got to say this came in from a customer. These guns are older, they have a varnish finish on. He didn't like the finish on it, so he decided to put it on a belt sander and sand everything down. And you can tell everything is undersized on it. Please, if you buy one of these, if the stock is not in the best shape and you decide to refinish it, step away from the sander. You can strip these stocks with citrus strip or with a razor blade. You normally don't need to use sandpaper on the stock to get it out. It's going to have some dings in it. That's all part of the gun. Let the dings in there. I'm off my soapbox now. So this gun, again, side-mounted safety, adjustable sights, and a standard front sight. The 50s and 60s was the golden age for small bore rifle. If you pick up any of the old NRA magazines from the 1940s or 50s, you'll see that there's as much coverage or more for small bore competition as there is for high power competition. Clubs had not only senior clubs, but junior shooters. This was a big push. Now, Remington and Winchester went at it. Winchester with the Model 72, Remington with the Model 37 on the high end of the target guns. so everyone needed something a little bit less. Winchester came out with the Model 75, and Remington came out with the Model 513T. There were about 10,000 of these came out in 1940. About 10,000 of these the government acquired for training purposes. The receivers are stamped U.S. properties, and they are cartouched. Pretty rare to find one. We did have one here in the store a couple of years ago, and it was a fine example of the gun. Target sights, either Lyman or Redfield, and low front sight with inserts in it also. It is drilled and tapped. It's drilled and tapped on the barrel. Now, a lot of younger shooters may say, why is it drilled and tapped on the barrel? Because back in the day, you would mount something like this, your Nurdle scope, or a Lyman, or a Redfield on the gun. We didn't have the advancements in optics at the time, but that's kind of what it would look like with a scope on it. Now, these scopes are difficult to find today, and you pay a price for them. Again, we have full walnut stock, adjustable sights, and beaver tail grip. And on the bottom of this gun, you can see you can adjust the sling position. And most of these did come with an 1.25 inch sling. This was in 1962 or 3. This gun sold for about $88. In today's market, that gun would be about $800, $900. So it still is a good bargain because you're going to pick this one up for less than $800. Of course, not being drilled and tapped doesn't stop the modern shooter from drilling and tapping, so you can put a modern scope on it. This is another example of it. Notice this one has a different front sight than the one we just looked at. So like we said, target shooting was all the big rage. Still, $88 was a lot of money back in 1962, plus the gun weighed 9 pounds, the 513. So Remington, responding to the public, came up with a shorter gun. It was the 521T. Difference between the 513, we have a smaller diameter barrel. It weighs about 2 pounds less, but it still has Lyman sight, Lyman front sight with replaceable inserts. Still adjustable in the bottom for a sling. And once again, it had all the features of the Remington we talked about earlier, with the groove trigger, side safety, case hardened bolt, and all built on this same receiver. The last gun we have was called the Junior Special. A little bit shorter, still has your Lyman sight on the back. Front sight is just a standard post. Maintains all the features of the other guns, but this was again made for a smaller stature shooter. Accurate, they are accurate. I've got a couple of 513s in my collection, which I like to certainly do enjoy shooting. You can't beat Remington for the value, and you have to think in this time between 1940 and the 60s, you had Winchester, Remington, Marlin, Mossberg, Harrington and Richardson, just to name a few manufacturers who were manufacturing under their own label, but you also had store brands where these manufacturers would manufacture a gun for places like JCPenney, Western Auto, Montgomery Ward. So there's a lot of these guns out. Between the whole 500 series of bolts, there was probably 1.5 million produced. You don't see them as often now, but I think we all, us older guys anyway, grew up either shooting a Remington or wanting one of these Remington bolt actions. Now down at the house, how did they advertise these things? Well, this is an American Rifleman from 1948. And you can see they took 2-page ad right in the middle, advertising their top-of-the-line gun, the Model 37, and then coming down here with the 513, which was a quality gun at a lesser price. In fact, one of the things they used to say is about the 513, extreme accuracy, moderate price. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you come out, grab one of these 500s before they disappear. If you like what you see, please subscribe, leave any comments you want. We did have a couple comments on a couple of the other videos. One was on the Schultz & Larson with the butt plate. That is a 22 caliber, and there was some concern about putting the guns back unwiped. After we do video, we do wipe all the guns down to keep rust and fingerprints off them. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you again next week.